Hello, my name is Anne Marie Newman, and I am here today to talk about the infinite humanitarians that are doing great work in the world and changing things today, tomorrow, and in the future. Today, I am fortunate to have Kyle Minyard, the executive director of Grindstone, visiting with us from Oklahoma. Hi, Kyle.
Good morning, Emery. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing just fine. Thank you for having
I'm
us.
Well, I appreciate you making the time. I know, unfortunately, you all are probably extremely busy these days between Florida, North Carolina, and everywhere else that you service.
Well, right now we're in the middle of planning our men's retreat we have at the end of this week, and then at the end of February, we are having a mini deployment in Florida, in the Lakeland, Florida area, for one of our
Wow.
volunteers during Helene, who had to leave Helene and go home for Milton. His We thought he wasn't going to be impacted. The eye went straight over his residence there and flooded him out. So we're going to go love on our brother and see if we can get him fixed up here at the end of February.
Wow. So, for those that don't know, Grindstone Ministries is a disaster relief and construction nonprofit. And they do amazing work in some of the most challenging situations. And Kyle, if you can tell us a little bit about how you all got started, and then how different people in your organization come to you, because your organization has some very unique skill sets.
Yes, ma'am, we do. We've been blessed by the Father, and that's the short answer. So the longer answer to that. So as far as what we do and how we do it, uh, so what we do, we go in, we clean up after tornadoes, hurricanes, uh, storms of various kinds and sizes, wherever we're called to do so. We were founded by T.J. Morris, aka Bear from the internet. Uh, He was convicted to go serve at a hurricane here a while back, having previously served during Hurricane Katrina as a contractor, uh, and decided that he had the skills and the required abilities to do better. And so he went out and started Grindstone. I started volunteering with them approximately 3.5, 4 years ago. Became a board member during our Idabel deployment in 2021, and then came on board as the executive director in July. Uh, we really have grown leaps and bounds since I've been involved, and it's purely been by the hand of the Father. Um, so some of our volunteers that we have around us, we have is varied from skilled contractors all the way to special operations forces, retired veterans, active duty military, of all various shapes, kinds, and sizes, and school teachers from Wisconsin. So we have a little bit of everything.
Well, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. How do you decide where you go? I mean, obviously, when a disaster hits, how do you decide when you go and how you get there? And then how do you find residents or places to stay while you're working? Because obviously, it's not just a one-day job.
So whenever we're looking for a place to deploy during a disaster, number one, there has to be a disaster that we um, respond to. So take Helene for an example. Helene was a very large, spread out disaster from Florida through Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, West Virginia, Tennessee, and into parts of some affected in Virginia and Kentucky. Uh, so whenever you're looking at a disaster of that scale, where do you go, right? Well, the
Yeah.
number one answer I can tell you is whenever you are a nonprofit based in faith, like we are, we pray. So the board gets together, and we all felt pretty convicted we needed to go to Helene. Tennessee was the most logical choice for us logistically because it was the most direct path straight out I-40 that we could get to from our home base of operations in Spiro. So we have a brother that happens to live in Johnson City. And so I reached out to him. I said, "Hey, what's it like? Where are we needed?" And he said, "Yeah, we can use you here in Tennessee." I said, "Okay, great. Help us find a spot." Well, he couldn't really help us find a spot either. So we kept looking. We worked with the state VOAD to find where we wanted to go. They were kind of being hesitant since they had never heard of us before to give us a spot to go. And I think that that's been remedied. They'll look to us in the future to help a little faster, hopefully. And so, long story short, get a hold of a friend of ours in government. They make a phone call. Within 5 minutes of that phone call, I got a call from the local state rep in Eastern Tennessee and Washington County, Tim Hicks. Tim and I had a conversation. He said, "Hey, we can use you here. Got a place for you to come." I said, "Great, we'll be there tomorrow morning." And we got to Cherry Grove Baptist Church. The recon team and I looked it over. Yeah, this will work great for a fob. So some of the things we look for in a fob: is there a place to lay our heads that's out of the weather? Is there a facility to cook in, or can we spin up our kitchen? Is there sufficient space to warehouse goods and equipment? And then are we able to do a distribution site from there where we can get goods out into the community that's been affected? Also, distance from the affected community. Cherry Grove happened to be within 3/4 of a mile of the first affected home. So it was a perfect logistic spot for us to lay our heads at. So, and it worked out great. We had an excellent, excellent time there serving the people in Eastern Tennessee, North Carolina. So,
Yeah. Yeah. About how long were you there?
we were in Tennessee for 30 days. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And the scope of projects that you worked on there, can you kind of give a high overview?
certainly. So the damage was flood damage. A normal river that was 30 to 50 yards wide and 2 to 3 foot deep swelled to over 65 foot deep and 3/4 of a mile wide. That the volume of water that went through there is just unimaginable.
Right.
To even to go back today and look and see what was affected, it's hard to believe. But what we were doing there primarily on this deployment turned into a distribution deployment. Excuse me, just a second. And sneeze. Primarily distribution.
God bless you.
Thank you. And where we were gathering supplies that were being donated and getting those out to the people that needed to help clean up. We also had chainsaw teams in the field, which is kind of our primary mission at Grindstone. We're really good at debris removal, cleanup, tree work is kind of our bread and butter where we like to be.
Right.
But this deployment transitioned into more of a distribution of goods because so many people were in need. The infrastructure was completely wiped out. The water, the power, the sewer, everything was gone. And it's going to be years, I heard at last count, for some of those people to have power back in the Carolinas. So we worked as best we could with what we had where we were at, as one of our mentors likes to tell us, and just did what we could while we were there. So
Right. Right. Well, I'm sure that the people there really appreciated you being there and helping distribute. So did you distribute from one key place, or did you go out in the areas where people couldn't really be accessed?
So we did both. We managed a distribution site in partnership with Cherry Grove Baptist Church there in Jonesboro, where we warehoused and had a drive-through drop-off and pickup for goods.
Yeah.
And then we also sent strike teams out every day to various locations as far away as I think some of the days they were sending teams over to Chimney Rock was about a 6-hour drive from where we were. So
Yeah.
we were supporting a pretty wide network where we were.
Wow. That's fantastic that you do that. And are you presently looking at going back to Florida or any other place right now? Are you working any place else?
Certainly. So, as I said at the start of this, we're looking at a mini deployment here at the end of February to assist one of our own volunteers that was with us during Helene. He left. I thought he just left. I had known that he was going home because I told him, I said, "Hey, get home to your family. If Milton's coming, you got to, take care of your family first. Not a big deal." I thought he was fine, hadn't heard anything. And then through another one of our volunteers and one of my staff had told me, "Hey, this happened to Brendan." I said, "Okay, let's get spun up. Let's figure this out, get it scheduled, and let's go get him some help." basically he was flooded out. His home was fine, but his whole farm and everything stayed in water. He was feeding cattle via canoe for about a week, I heard. So
Oh
uh,
my gosh.
we're going to go down, help him with some drainage issues, help him clean up some trees that fell, and get him squared away with a new barn. Trying to elevate it up off the ground, save some of his tools and supplies that he has.
Right.
And that'll be the end
Wow.
of February.
That's fantastic. So how many people are make up your board and how many people are on staff versus how many are volunteers? And I understand, volunteers probably vary depending upon what you're doing.
Yes, ma'am. Currently, we have a four member board. We have a president, TJ Morris, vice president. Currently is Alex. See, yeah, Alex is a vice president. Pandy is the treasurer, and Andres Delgado is the secretary. That is our board. I was previously the vice president and stepped down whenever I took the executive director role. As far as staff, I have myself, the executive director. I have an admin full time, Cindy Pritchett, and then I have J.A. Dudley full time. And then we currently employ two part time. Uh, Part time is Jason and Monica. So, and that's our full staff.
Yeah. And then everyone else is volunteers.
Everyone else volunteers. We have about 500 on our volunteer list at any one time. Typically,
Wow.
when we deploy, there'll be 100, 150 people that'll come out during a deployment.
Wow, that's extensive. That is incredible. And how do you communicate when you're someplace where communication's been knocked out?
So you're talking once we're on site.
Yeah.
Uh, so we handle what's called a PACE communication plan, primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency communications plan. So we have 4
Mhm.
levels of communication that we're able to maintain while we're deployed. Our primary means of communication is the little tiny rectangles here, so
Yep.
cellular, and then backup with Starlink Wi-Fi, handheld radios, and then we also employed uh, most recently during Helene our partnership with Amron. We activated those guys to come out and help us as amateur radio operators. Those guys were indispensable. That was our primary means of being able to communicate for Helene, other
Right.
than the Starlink, because there was no other way to have real-time communication with our teams in the field because the cell systems were down.
Yeah. Well, that's great that you were able to strike up that partnership. I hope it
Absolutely.
continues.
I really hope it does as well.
Yeah, and Starlink is a big help as well.
Yes, ma'am. It's really
That's
changed the
really,
game for what we're able to do.
I bet. I bet. Well, now going forward, do you have any special initiatives going on coming up in 2025? And if so, would you be able to share some of that with us and maybe how people can help and reach out, whether it's through volunteerism or financial contributions? How can we, um, uh, the listeners and good people out there wanting to be humanitarians and get actively involved? What can we do to well, first tell us about your initiative and then let us know how we can help.
Okay. So in 2025, we have an initiative called Project Endure. Project Endure started as a marketing plan for Grindstone for 2025 that is evolved into a full-blown initiative where we are wanting to continue these mini deployments. And also, we've begun a training program to equip and train our volunteers wherever they are and encourage others to go out into the communities to help their community to endure in a time of crisis. So, through that, we want to, like I said, educate our volunteers, bring them up to a level where we are comfortable with them leading a team on behalf of Grindstone, wherever they are, whether our core members are there or not. And I think that that's really important as we develop out these regional teams and go forward. As you're aware, as I'm aware, disasters are going to continue to happen, and we cannot be everywhere at once all the time. The Father can, but we can't. So if He can equip those and build that strength out throughout the region or throughout the country, then I think we'll really be in a good spot. So,
Well, that's great.
yeah. And what was your follow up? I'm sorry.
Well, and how can the listeners and people who are looking to be humanitarians. Some have already actively engaged in projects, some have not. How can people become involved with you or help you?
Okay. If you would like to volunteer with Grindstone, one thing that you can do is sign up through our volunteer portal via our website, grindstoneministries.com. Towards the bottom of the page, there's a button that says volunteer now. If you, or it might change to say some volunteer basically. If you click that link and follow the steps, you'll sign up as a volunteer with us, and you will receive notifications of opportunities to deploy with us whenever they occur. And that's the best way to keep up with us on the volunteer side. If you just want to follow along and see what we do, the best way to keep up with us through social media, Grindstone Ministries, easily search in YouTube, Grindstone Ministries. You'll find us, see what all we're about. I like to just tell people to go inspect our fruit, and the best way to do that is by watching what we do, keeping up with us. If you would like to donate to us, and I highly encourage everyone that watches this and spread the word, we can't do this for free. We do not bill anyone for anything that we do. We do not bill the homeowner, the homeowner, the community that we're in, the state, the government, FEMA, no one. We rely on small donations from viewers that like yours and the folks that follow us. So we really would ask if you would like to donate. Again, go to our website and there's a button there where you can donate or find the address to send a check or anything like that. We also are continuously looking to improve our partnerships with corporations, those that might be a benefit, mutual benefit to both of us. If you need a tax write-off, we're a charitable organization. We always look for in-kind donations to help others. And that's something that I think a lot of people misunderstand. These partnerships with corporations, these guys are there to help. So if we can get some equipment, that's less cost out of pocket that has to come from our donors. So those are really beneficial. We tend to break stuff when we're on deployment, so we always need to have our eye on getting stuff repaired back on the road, and that's what we do when we're not out in the field. So to paint a picture, just for transparency, last year we spent $60,000 approximately on just repairs on vehicles and trailers. And we don't have a large fleet, so stuff wears out, stuff breaks, and we have to be ready to go work on it. We have some good mechanics here that help us out, and hopefully that continues. But just to kind of paint the picture for your donors, if anyone's interested in donating to us, we don't waste a lot of money. We don't have big galas that we spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars on prizes to give away. We try to be fiduciary responsibility with every dollar that the Father gives us and be good stewards of that. So appreciate everyone for listening to my spiel on that. So
yeah, no, it's important. I mean, people all need to know how they can, contribute, because not everybody can wield a chainsaw or has the same type of skill set that's needed out in the field. And so
sorry to cut you off there. Most importantly, prayer. That's the best way you can support us. So
that's great. May I ask, you are a 501c3, so it's publicly available, but what is your annual budget for 2025, and what was it in 2024?
Our budget for 2024 was 1.2 million. Our budget for 2025 is 998,000. In 2024, we budgeted $100,000 for disaster response, and in 2025 we budgeted $300,000 for direct assistance for disaster response. So our overhead to run the operation costs us about $350,000. That's everything to keep the lights on, keep the equipment rolling, all the salaries, all the insurance. Our insurance runs us about $50,000 a year for all of our coverages. So, but that's going to be posted on our website as well. I don't know if it'll be up in the next couple of weeks. Try to get it up there for this year. So.
Because I'm not familiar with a lot of the heavier machinery, from an in-kind donation standpoint, could you share, do you have a wish list for some of those bigger items?
Certainly. So we try to stay mobile. So those that would know, a excavator that does not require a permit, so 20,000 pounds and under, uh, 10,000. So we really find that that 20,000 pound class machine is really ideal for our purposes of demolition and moving. So something along the lines of like a Kubota KX080 or even bigger. The biggest machine we can move without a permit is believe a 210 class John Deere or 200 class Komatsu. I'm not brand picky. I don't care. It all breaks. It all runs. Some are better than others, but I'm not picky as long as it's not a hulking piece of junk whenever we get it. Um, and then skid steers with grapples. So 10,000 pound class skid steer um, are really beneficial to us. So something like a Kubota 75. Um, it would be a Bobcat T38, I think is the JCB. You're picking my brain now. In a JCB, they make what's called a teleskid, and that's really on my wish list, but I don't think
Okay.
uh,
Well,
it.
you you never
Yeah,
know.
excavators, yeah, never know. Excavators, skid steers, wheel loaders, telehandlers, small man lift would be useful. Bucket truck eventually is on the wish list. But it's all the things that I list are things that we want to go help people with.
Right.
This stuff is not, um, you know, back at the house getting run 24/7. We're doing stuff to help people. Um, One of our volunteers, actually one of our staff doesn't know this, but we're going to do a little mini deployment for him because surprise, we're going to go fix your driveway because that needs done. And our mission statement is to experience the abundant, save lives while in service to the Father, while experiencing the abundance of His provision and blessing. And so we're going to go
Right.
bless our brother. His driveway needs fixed, and we got to get that done. So,
That's awesome. That's
yep.
awesome. I think we're all looking forward to maybe 2025 being a year of abundance and seeing people come not just financially abundant, but socially, emotionally, philanthropy, just really people becoming engaged and connecting with each other and rebuilding community that I think sometimes we have allowed to get stretched a little thin. So,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you for doing that. Do you have a story that you could share that had to do with something maybe in North Carolina or someone that you helped that, again, wouldn't, be inappropriate for me to ask, that you could kind of just let people know, what it's like to be out there and where you really step in. I think everyone knows a little bit better with these last several months, with all of this. We've seen so much on the TV, but I always like to just hear a little bit more about a personal story. So if you could share something that impacted you or impacted your team, I would really appreciate it.
Let me think on that for just a second. There's so
Okay.
many.
Yeah.
Um, there's several things that really jump out at me about whenever we deploy. Something that's core to us, obviously, is our faith in Yeshua Messiah, and us getting to be deployed during Sukkot was really, really impactful. Um, the Spirit really moved um, during that time, and we saw when we were obedient to Him, He provided. Um, and we weren't, when we tried to do it our way, then it didn't work. So that was something that was really impactful. But the individual story, um, one of the first things we were able to do, we found it incredibly difficult in Tennessee to find people to help because Tennessee
Right.
is a volunteer state and they really embody that in their local community. Those folks showed up and showed out. But one of the first things we were able to do, and it just built from here, was Miss Vicky lost her house, lost her whole farm. Her barn was filled with 8 foot of silt, and so
Mhm.
she was away. She had lost her husband. Um, Unfortunately, he perished in the storm, and she had basically lost hope. She had lost any semblance of hope. Her home was gone. The barn was flooded out. There was silt across her whole farm. So we went in and got her permission, and we said, we're going to go clean the barn out. And I know that's not much to most people. Like, why would you waste time cleaning out a barn? Just demolish it. But she came back, and whenever she saw it, she had tears. Then I had tears. Then everybody else had tears. And
Yeah.
it was that sign of hope for her that, hey, we
Mhm.
will be able to rebuild. And that became a
Okay.
beacon in that whole community where she lived. And now today they've rebuilt, I think they're up to 8 of the homes have been rebuilt. Um,
Oh, wow.
so
That's
she's
great.
recently got to move back in here. We're 4 or 5 months post incident.
Yeah.
So she's back in her home, back in a home, a new home that's elevated and won't ever flood again. Uh, so I can't say won't ever flood again, but hopefully never floods again. And
Right.
that
So
just really
inspiring.
that really stuck with me. On
Right.
top of, you know, a lot of times we get volunteers that are broken, people that have, lost hope themselves, and they get to come volunteer and see the Father move and experience the Father move in their life. And that really, that's one of the things that I enjoy about this most. Um,
Right.
because I experienced that in my life serving as a volunteer with this organization. Was it
Right.
really it changed my life. Um,
Right.
and not to make this about me, but it did. And
Yeah.
so I had spent a very long time, 22 years in oil and gas. Never thought I'd leave oil and gas. And Dad said, "Nope, need you to do this." So here I am. And
Right.
just want everybody to remember, just say yes. Whenever he tells you to do something, as scary as it is, he'll take care of you. He'll benefit you. So
Yep. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah. Faith can change so many things,
yes, ma'am.
so many things, and the inspiration and the hope that you offer when you do make such a big change like that, even though it's such hard work and sometimes, like you said, it might seem impossible. The ripple effect is tremendous. I mean, when we realize how our frequency, our energy, our faith can really, change an entire circumstance.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
so you mentioned that you have been in oil and gas. And how can I ask, how did you wake up? Did you just wake up one morning and say grindstone's the answer? Or what was your journey like?
So for me, I was working and I've always been into preparedness and would watch Viking preparedness on YouTube. Um, and then one day, uh, he mentioned, um, let's see, how do I want to tell this story?
Take your time.
Yeah, one day on a video, he mentioned. I see, I'd seen the billboard first, so I was driving through Fort Worth and saw a billboard that said Yahweh, God's real name. And then I was listening to Viking preparedness video, and he mentioned Yahweh. And I was like, huh, maybe I gotta look this up. And I looked it up and continued to watch him on and off. And the Spirit really, really used him to save my life because I was doing bad things in a bad way and wasn't being wasn't being a good man. Uh, so one thing led to another. I wound up coming to a men's retreat. Like I said, we have that this week with Bear Independent, and wound up rededicating my life to the Father, and got baptized, and haven't looked back since. Uh, there's ups, downs, struggles. We all fall short, but haven't looked back since. And it's really, really changed my life to remember that I was put on this earth to serve Him. So,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
but
Well,
yep,
and it's getting more well known that Yahweh is actually printed in our DNA.
yep,
So, it's there's whatever, there's a big variety of what people refer, whether it's source, God, Yahweh, Yeshua, I think it's just really being that heart-centered and knowing that we're all connected, and we all have I just think it's an innate responsibility to each other. And when we engage that, that it really changes and moves mountains.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Faith of a mustard seed.
Yep, that exactly. And again, it's building on the hope and transition like you're talking about, because I can't imagine. I have not had a loss of my home or complete devastation like that, and I really have to say, somewhat selfishly, I hope I never do.
Right.
But I've seen it, time and time again, and it just it's just mind-boggling to just see what kind of a surreal situation, whether it's people's belongings just strewn everywhere, and yeah, where do you go,
Right.
because people's homes, no matter how large or small, are their hub, and it's just that displacement um, really can shake people's faith. And so having people come in, especially who like you said, you're not charging anyone for this,
Yep.
and you work independently, and it's all goodwill, which is tremendous.
Thank you.
And I would like to ask, because I know you also sharing your story, I'm sure there's got to be some big impact for maybe veterans with PTSD, or just making transition for them to come and engage with you, because like you said, I mean, we all, doing good makes you feel good in a lot of ways and heals a
Yep.
lot of things. I always say to people, when you're having a bad day, go do something for someone, and before you know it, you're going to feel so much better. But do you have quite a few veterans come to you for the first, and realize that it's kind of a mutual healing, so to speak?
Yes, ma'am. So the way that we're structured is pretty military style. We run things pretty rigid whenever we deploy and try to coordinate as best we can. I would say the percentage of veterans or active duty, probably in the neighborhood of 25-30% of the people that we attract. Um, and that's great to see. And they've been so beneficial, beyond beneficial, that the skills and knowledge that they bring to our team. And so I would encourage anybody out there, if they would like to volunteer, come spend time with us, sign up, and we look forward to seeing you. So,
Right, right. Well, and I hope that President Trump can get to see some of the good works that you're doing. And I know that there's lots of initiatives for our military and for the veterans, and public-private partnerships. So I hope that there's something that aligns with your mission that comes as a tremendous blessing to you all this year.
me as well. Thank you very much.
I think it's just great. So is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we say goodbye to the viewers and thank them for their time? And thank you.
I just want to thank everybody out there that supports us. I don't think that gets said enough, and thank you isn't enough. But without y'all support, we couldn't do what we do. And so thank you very much for that. And thank you for helping spread the message of Grindstone. Uh,
Um,
I really appreciate your title, Infinite Humanitarians, because there should be an infinite number of humanitarians. So,
I think it's my hope and dream that everyone begins to think of themselves as a humanitarian, because I think, we all are. We just sometimes get, pulled, like you said, there's life circumstances. But I find that those, we're beautifully made, because when you do service work, the endorphins, the oxytocin, the serotonin, all of those things chemically get engaged. And I mean, we're so beautifully made that here doing something, whether it's grandiose, like cleaning out a barn or wielding a skid steer or something like that nature, or helping a neighbor, it all makes a difference. And I think everyone needs to know that they can make a difference. And that's why I'm trying to talk to a variety of people like you, and also just inspire people to reach out, because it's not complicated. Just like you walked through how you can get engaged on your website.
yep.
It just takes that first step.
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you so much, Kyle, and have a blessed day. And thank you for your time. And thank you for all that Grindstone does.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.